3rd, 2025, and today we'll be talking about how I, Pole University, creator of the channel, owner of all the infields that you're seeing, got rejected all day today. All right. Now, I love sharing these days with you and these experiences because I'm somebody who likes to be completely honest about what this journey actually looks like and therefore what it will look like for you if you're somebody that plans on learning how to build this skill set of cold approach. So, firstly, if you're confused, you're new to the channel, and you don't know who I am, hello. I'm Ephraim. I'm a 25-year-old American living in London now. And what I do is I teach busy, introverted guys like myself how to get off of dating apps, how to stop relying on alcohol, nightclubs, bars, nights out, how to stop trying to bang your coworkers and your flatmates, yeah, and your friends in your social circle, and instead how to confidently walk over to women in public when you see them and you like them and just give yourself a chance. Essentially, that's all we're doing here. We're giving ourselves a chance. And the way that I do that is I install my proven system, I call it the Quiet Confidence Playbook, into my clients. I've already installed it to new skill set and they're flying with it in their home cities. So, if you would like me to install that very playbook that I'm referring to into you, then click the first link in the description below so that we can schedule a free application call together to see if you're a good fit for the program. All right, so if we are a good fit, then we can schedule a time to meet up in a particular city and I'll teach you this skill set. If we're not a good fit, then I'll be honest about it and I'll point you in the right direction. I'll give you whatever advice I can to help you out and I'll answer all your questions. All right, so to not even narrate the day too much, it was pretty much full of rejection. All right, so it was mainly just I did an uncut infield and got absolutely battered. Yeah, I was along Tottenham Court Road down to Leicester Square, down to Piccadilly Circus, and just getting absolutely battered left, right, and center. I love these days. Yeah, very humbling days. Days that we all need to remind ourselves that we're not sitting on our ivory tower having perfected a skill set because the reality is even if you get really really good and really effective at approaching, some days simply are not going to go your way and you have to be okay with that. Yeah, so even the guy that can put together all these infields that you're seeing, and guys will say, "Wow, you seem so smooth, you seem so natural." I am not immune to rejections. All right, I'm not immune to blowouts. In fact, I face them every day. Go watch my most recent video, and you'll see that I got rejected, a couple bails, and then it turned into a good conversation at the end. Right, tomorrow's video that's dropping, same thing, same layout where I walked over to a girl, got rejected. We continued rolling, and then I ran over to a girl that passed me as I was getting rejected, and I stopped her, and that turned into a great conversation, right? So what I'm trying to prove here with these demonstrations that I do is that every approach truly is independent. Yeah, so something to consider is that the girl that, let's say you walk over to like the fifth girl of the day and she is super interested in you and you end up lining up a date with her, right? So, firstly, the thing to consider is that wouldn't have happened if you let rejection break you down and you threw in the towel because, let's say, the first four that you approached weren't interested, right? So, had you not gone through those first four rejections, you would not have met the fifth girl. And so, the importance is to not lose enthusiasm and to continue going in and continue giving yourself a chance. Every time you're walking over to a girl and you're putting your ego aside, you're putting your balls on the line, and you're giving her a compliment in hopes that she reciprocates the interest. Every time you do that, what you're actually doing is you're giving yourself a chance. Yeah, the same way when you swipe on a dating app and you swipe right, you're trying to give yourself a chance. The problem is your chance is way, way lower because you're displaying 0% courage. Yeah, you're doing what every guy can fucking do, which is download an app, upload some photos, and swipe, swipe, swipe away. All right. So we shouldn't shy away from rejection. We should embrace it. All right. There's a few reasons why. So the first reason that that is the case is every time the conversation does not go your way. So let's say you walk over to a girl, hi, you look so amazing today. Oh, you're in a rush? Okay. Yeah, get to work. Have a nice day, right? Guys tend to go through that and they start to lose enthusiasm and they go, oh, I must be a piece of shit because I didn't get a date. The reality is, what's happening is you're desensitizing yourself to the importance to the perceived importance that a rejection represents. Yeah, so if you're somebody that has zero sales experience, then it's likely that the first time you pick up a phone and cold call, it's not going to go your way, and you're going to feel slightly slightly demotivated when that happens. But a funny thing happens when you keep picking up the phone and you do it, let's say 100 times, and then you do it another 100 times the next day, and you do that for the course of a month. All of a sudden, every time a person hangs up on you, it stops mattering as much when you look at the entire body of work that you've done over that month. And you'll be surprised when you actually make your first sale and you make a couple sales, but then you're going to look over at the numbers and you're going to go, wait a second, to make 5 sales, it took me about 500 phone calls. Yeah. So when this is when guys start to bring up the question of ratio, right? And it's unfortunate because these guys are stuck in a they're too stuck in the salesman mentality, right? Where they're trying to chart things on graphs and go, okay, does that mean I have to change my cold calling script? Does that mean this and that? The reality is when you're cold approaching, it is slightly different because there are way more factors in play, right? So the factors in play when you're cold calling would be how open is that person to talking in that moment? What time of day is it, right? Are you calling them in the proper time zone? But when you're cold approaching, there's a lot more factors in play. Like, what mood is that person in when you're approaching her? Does she even like you off the bat, or are you somebody that completely repulses her? Which unfortunately may be the case, right? Maybe she doesn't like my look, maybe she doesn't like my low energy vibe, and she prefers somebody the exact opposite of me, and I can't control that, right? Is she actually in a rush, right? If she's headed to work, it's unlikely that she's going to stop and have a little romantic chat um, on her way, right? On her way to deliver her lattes to her coworkers. So rather than seeing rejection as something you need to shy away from, you should actually embrace it and use that rejection not only as a reference experience. So in the beginning, you should absolutely see it as something that as like a data point. So that's exactly what I was doing when I was first building the skill set. Is I was overlooking this body of work and going, okay, what am I doing in on certain days that tends to lead to a string of blowouts? And I found out, okay, well, I notice when I get blown out 3 or 4 times in a row, this is early days when I was building the skill set, I tend to lose enthusiasm. I tend to go over to the next girl a bit more shy, in more of a shy way. Yeah, kind of like tucking my tail, but still trying to put myself in there. So look, fair play to younger Ephraim for still going in. But the reality is, if you have visibly lost enthusiasm and you're walking over almost expecting to get rejected, which will happen when you're first building the skill set, you're almost going to expect to get rejected if you've already gotten rejected, let's say the first 3 approaches you did, then it is going to impact how you're going to come across in the next conversation. So, prime example of this that's more recent is my client, right? So, we'll use Isaac as the example. So, I remember Isaac went through one of these real rough patches in Belgrade where he rocked up to Belgrade, and the first 2 days were insanely good. Yeah, so he was getting numbers left and right. All the girls were stopping for him, engaging, loving him, right? He was grabbing all these Instagrams and phone numbers, and then we got to day 3, and it was a complete 180. So part of this was he got super drunk the night before. I introduced him to some of my friends, and me as the coach, I said, I'm not going to be drinking during your coaching experience. I want to deliver the best possible coaching, so I'm not going to drink any alcohol. I would advise you don't as well. And he didn't listen to my advice. Fair play. Yeah, he's his own adult. He didn't take my advice. He went out with some of my friends that I introduced him to out in Belgrade, and they had a pretty heavy night of drinking, right? So he rocked up to day 3 slightly hungover, but it wasn't too noticeable. But that is something that probably played into his energy dip, right? And then when the first 3, 4, 5 girls walked past him and didn't stop for him, he started to really get down on himself. Now Isaac is a trooper because he wasn't really showing it at first, but eventually I started picking up on. His tone was getting lower in the conversations. When he was trying to get in front of the girls, he was doing it a little more half-assed. He was almost counting himself out before he even went over and expecting that the girls weren't going to stop. Whereas day 1 and day 2, he was walking over and he's like, "No, this girl's going to stop for me," right? So what was going on is he was letting those rejections get to him deep down, and he was almost basing his sense of self-worth in the moment on the fact that he wasn't getting the result that he wanted to. But we have to shift our focus. This is why it's so important when I say easier said than done, but you need to detach your importance from the outcome of the conversation, and you need to place your importance on whether or not you're taking action, just like any other skill, right? So I use the classic Steph Curry example, right? So when we're learning to shoot a basketball, we shouldn't expect the first few shots to go in, but that shouldn't be the metric for success anyways at first, right? The metric for success early on when building a skill set like how to shoot a three-pointer should be how many times are we shooting the three-pointer? Yeah, how many days in a row are we showing up to the gym and actually putting shots up? That's what counts. Yeah, inevitably they'll start going in with the right coaching and the right guidance, which is why I tell guys it's not worth trying to build this on your own, because that's essentially you trying to figure out how to go about this with no guidance and no structure, no plan. Fair play if you try it, but I think you're wasting your time. Yeah, so the same thing is true with this skill set. It's just a way more difficult skill set because it involves your ego having to be bruised over and over again. It involves you questioning your sense of self worth over and over again until you're genuinely desensitized to it. Right? So nowadays, I can go a full day of getting rejected and I can keep going in, keep going in, keep going in with the same enthusiasm. I'm not going to say I'm a robot and it doesn't impact me at all, but the degree to which it impacts me is so much lower because I've just been through it. Yeah, because I just know that this is how it goes, right? So for Isaac, I remember we changed locations. We went to this mall area in Belgrade. It was a super hot day, so we went to a mall with an AC. He was already like 10 rejections in, right? So we regrouped, we went to the mall, and then he started firing away at the mall, and the same thing was happening, right? He was getting boom, 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 back to back rejections. Girls weren't stopping for him. And so we had this like sit down heart to heart for like 15 minutes where I genuinely just let him spill all of that emotional baggage that he was carrying onto me. And we just had a real heart to heart chat. And I was going, just tell me exactly what's going through your mind right now. Tell me what you're feeling. And I remember some of the things he told me were like, Ephraim, I feel like I'm doing what you've taught me. I feel like I'm getting in front of them properly. I feel like I'm projecting my voice and saying, excuse me. I feel like I'm correctly implementing the technique in the playbook, but it's just not working. And I had to remind him that some days just go like this. Yeah, unfortunately, you can't control whether or not the person's actually going to stop. All you can control is how firmly you're actually walking over. Yeah, how assertively you're positioning yourself in front of them. Yeah, how loudly you're projecting your voice, how bright of a smile you're flashing, and the rest of it comes down to the actual energy that you're carrying. Yeah, so I gave him this analogy and I said, like, think about it this way: the same way that I have AirPods, and when I connect these AirPods to my phone, I can put my phone 20 feet away and I can play a song, and somehow, some way, the song still reaches my ears, and I can hear the notes, even though I can't see the actual sound waves being transferred from my phone to my ear, right? This is a very basic example, right? All right, I'm not a big tech wizard, although I have a background in technology. I don't know how Bluetooth works, all right? But we obviously, the point that I was driving home there is a signal that's being sent from my phone to my AirPods, even though I can't see it. Clearly, it's being sent because that's how the sound is reaching my ears. There's something similar that happens with cold approach, where, and just life in general, but there's this energy where if you've been rejected 10, 20 times back to back in a day, which, I was impressed that Isaac was able to keep chugging through, because I expect some guys to quit and throw in the towel and go, all right, let's just try this again tomorrow. But he didn't. And but when you are carrying this string of blowouts and you're not used to it, you're not used to having to self-regulate, you're not used to having to continue emotionally picking yourself up off of the pavement, then you are carrying this certain energy where at some point you're walking over to the girl and you're almost, with your body language, with your voice, you're almost saying, please stop, right? Like, I need you to stop for me to feel good about myself. I need you to stop for me to feel that validation of like, okay, the girl does stop for me, right? She at least talks to me. And so, although you can't see it, I can't literally point out the signs and go, see, like, that's what's being transferred. It's clear that that is the case sometimes, specifically for beginners, right? Which is why like just describing this, I'm shaking my head going, I can't imagine why a guy would try to build this skill set on his own without proper guidance and without somebody to lean on, right? Because that's what I was doing for Isaac that day. So after I gave him this analogy, the dots were starting to connect. I remember we had a cup of coffee together at this cafe in the mall. We were flirting with the waitress, yeah, just having fun. I did a few approaches for him, so a few like really bold ones, so I could purposely get blown out. Right, I walked over to a few like mother-daughter approaches, a few group approaches, just to make myself look like a tit in front of him, just to remind him that this process should be fun and that we should not attach our sense of self-worth to the outcome. And after that process, we got up from the cafe and I told him, I was like, dude, you put in a lot of reps today. We could just hit it again tomorrow, right? If you're feeling down about yourself. And he refused to give up, which I really respect. And he ended the day off with a bunch of amazing conversations. He even stopped a group of two girls and like roped me into the conversation as the coach. And we had this fun like back and forth chat. I remember it. I'm sure if Isaac is watching, he remembers it too. And so he walked over and that was his opener. And yeah, we chatted to them for like 10, 15 minutes. And although it didn't go anywhere after that, it was just proof to him. He had proven to himself that every approach is independent. And when you are able to put yourself in a better state of mind, the conversations inevitably go better because you're no longer omitting these vibes, or I guess emitting, right? Emitting these vibes of like neediness. Please stop. I need you to stop for me to feel good about myself. All right. So we kind of went on a tangent there, but here, the next thing that I wrote down a few notes for this one. So that's what I was going over. Is each time that you get rejected, the rejection becomes less important to you when you look over the body of work as a whole. And so if you imagine you've done 100 approaches, let's say 80 of them were not interested and didn't want to go on a date with you, but 20 of them stopped to chat with you, great conversation. Some of them weren't interested, but 10 of those that stopped to chat with you, let's say they were interested and you tried lining up a date. Maybe 5 of those dates that you thought you lined up didn't actually come out, but you've got 5 dates under your belt now, right? So when looking back on the body of work, you can go, oh, but your ratio is so bad, dude. It's like 5%. Wow, it's such a bad return on investment. But then you pan right and you go, yeah, but wait a second. That took him, let's say, 5 days. 5 days, 5 dates, when the prior 4 years he had gotten 0 dates. Yeah, the guy was on a 4 year dry streak, right? And in 5 days, able to line up 5 dates. And I don't remember the exact numbers, I wasn't counting, but it was something like that, right? And so it's like, recognize the difference in what you're doing currently, which is probably swiping on apps. And every time you get a match, usually it's a girl that's slightly chubby, anyways. And even she probably ghosts you, right? This is what I used to go through. And then you pan to the right and you go, yeah, that's going to take a lot more effort. Yeah, I'm going to have to put myself through a lot more psychological battery. But even as a beginner learning the skill set, as long as you got something about you, you got some solid social skills, and you most importantly, you have that willingness to take action and throw yourself into the deep end, even though you don't know how it's going to go, then even a beginner can get pretty decent results. That's a 5 day immersion that I was doing with Isaac, right? And so nowadays, right, if we're talking ratios, which I hate doing, it's much better because he's got the skill set, he's got more self belief, he's got more dating experience. And so now it looks a lot different for him, just like it does for me, right? So when you watch my videos, you'll see that oftentimes, right, pretty much every day I've been out here, minus a couple, I've been able to line up a date. And obviously, these are just for demonstration. I'm not actually texting these girls and taking them out on dates. So one could argue that they wouldn't have ever come out, but I'll leave that to you to speculate, right? I'm not really worried about it. You've seen what I can do on camera, right? So it's like the better you get at the skill set, yes, that's going to help you. But really, what's helping you is that desensitization to rejection. Because now, when you're walking over as a guy who doesn't need anything from the girl anymore. And you're going, yeah, I get it. Some girls are going to reject me, some girls are going to love me. So you're just walking over as you, right? So I'm just walking over as Ephraim and I'm putting myself in front of them assertively every time. Not just like the times where the day's going really well and I've got 4 phone numbers. No, even the times when back to back to back I'm getting blown out. I'll walk over just as assertively to the next girl. I'll stand in front of her, excuse me, I'll deliver my compliment. And what do you know? Because she can feel, just like the AirPod analogy, she could feel that energy of non-neediness, that energy of like, yeah, maybe I got rejected 4 times before I walked up to her, but it really doesn't phase me, yeah? And I really don't care if you stop, but I hope that you do because you look good. It's like that kind of energy. All of a sudden she wants to stop, right? All of a sudden if it's a girl that is not in a rush, that is not in a relationship already and that likes your vibe immediately, then she wants to chat, yeah? So this is what rejection is teaching us and doing for us. Yeah, I see it as a beneficial process. So yeah, the next thing I wrote, I'm kind of going ahead of script. Wow, I pretty much memorized the presentation on accident. So I wrote down, if you're walking over with no expectation of outcome, when you are presented with an interaction where there is mutual interest, you will show up with a no fucks given kind of a mentality. All right? So that's exactly what I've just said, right? When you're walking over and you don't expect anything from the girl, it changes the whole conversation. And I can't necessarily put a finger on why quite yet. Give me a few more months and I'll be able to actually articulate that. But there genuinely is some sort of an energy transference that's going on where when you're a beginner and you're so attached to outcome, it's almost like, okay, I need you to stop for me that just so that I can feel good and I can prove to myself that I can use this skill set to get dates. Then you go on enough dates and you go, yeah, I mean, stop if you want, but I know what I'm about, right? Stop if you want, but if you don't, that girl probably will. And it's like that's what you've seen on my most recent video, right? Stop if you want, but if you don't, the next girl probably will. And it's like when you walk over with that energy, it's no wonder why I'm able to create these videos for you where I'm getting battered back to back to back. And then the very next girl I go over to, amazing conversation. I'm just as calm as I was when I started before getting rejected at all. And now all of a sudden I've got a date set up in the calendar. Yeah. So the next thing I write is, don't view it as the person is rejecting who you are at your core. Just understand that maybe timing or circumstances aren't right. So in this case, she could be in a rush, on her way to work or on her lunch break, and not really open to chatting. Or just understand that maybe it's not a mutual fit, right? For us, all it takes is a pretty face and a nice figure, right? But if there's something about you, your energy, not just your look, right? Guys are so zeroed in and zoomed in on looks. No, it's the whole. It's just who you are, right? It's who you are. It's how you communicate, how you come across to her, and if that's not a match, she'll probably be able to pick up on that sooner than you will. But eventually, the more you learn the skill set, you'll be able to pick on it quite quickly as well. And that's another reason why the conversation's not going to end up in a date, and that is okay, right? So this is why I'm so honest with my content, because for too long this space was filled with guys who only showed their highlight reels, and that makes the consumer, the person watching the content, it gives them a very unrealistic picture of what this is going to look like. They think that if they hit a certain, it's this whole red pill theory. The whole what they're preaching is that if you hit a certain body mass percentage, body fat percentage, if you hit a certain figure in a bank account, if you have a certain brand on your car or your clothes, then all of a sudden you're immune to rejection. Oh, you've hit high value male status, and high value males don't get rejected. In fact, the girls come to them, and it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. Yeah, doesn't matter who you are. You could be fucking Dwayne the Rock Johnson. Yeah, American heartthrob. Does not matter. There will be girls on this earth that are still going to reject you. Doesn't matter who you are. Yeah. Obviously, there are things that we can do to move the needle, right? Which is why the part about red pill that I do agree with is constant self development, constantly becoming better in every arena possible. But that doesn't negate the rejection, right? That doesn't mean that you're going to be immune to it. In fact, you can get as good as me at this skill set, and just like me, you're still going to have days where you're just faced with back to back to back to back rejection, right? Where you're going, huh, I thought I was the teacher. I thought I was the coach here. And all of a sudden, I'm not able to get any of these girls to stop. What's going on here, right? But the best part is the sun always rises, and I'll go out tomorrow and probably line myself up with a date. Yeah. And the best part is I already proved this today. You'll see the footage whenever it drops. But um, however many approaches I did, 20, 25 or so, all rejection, but there was one very solid conversation towards the end of the day. And we did exchange numbers, and we did line up a date. So there you go. Yeah, just real time proof for you. Yeah, so that'll drop whenever it does. Let's see what else we have. Yeah, the next thing I put is it teaches you how to be resilient, how to get back up after you've been knocked down. So this is the part of the skill set that isn't emphasized enough. Yeah, so when you learn how to approach the girl and you do it again and again and again, obviously having a system in place makes this process way easier because you actually have a guide, you have a map, and you know what to do now, right? You actually have some sort of a a structure to follow, which is very important. But knowing that you're still going to get rejected, one of the benefits here is that you're becoming a very resilient man, right? You're becoming a guy who can face adversity. So it's going to transfer over into every area, right? When you learn how to approach a girl and then you try to get a sales job, this shit just becomes easy as hell, right? Cold calling, door knocking, door to door sales. This stuff becomes so easy by comparison because you go, wait, I've approached girls in city centers where everybody was watching and listening to me while I got rejected. So who gives a fuck that this person hung up on me when I cold called them, right? Same thing with like, let's say you're applying for jobs and you keep getting rejected from all your job applications. This resilience skill that you're building allows you to go, oh, this feels familiar, right? I know exactly what this is. I've gone through this before, i.e., when I learned how to approach. And so now you're going to go, oh, so I already know what the solution is here. Yes, I'm going to optimize my resume as much as possible. I'm going to put in detailed applications, but I already understand that I'm only ever one application away from getting the job or getting the interview at the very least. And so that's what allows you to keep putting in the applications rather than just throwing in the towel and going, you know what? Maybe this job path isn't for me. Maybe I'm not cut out for it. This is exactly what I applied to tech sales, which is why I was able to land a job so quickly. Because instead of like putting in applications when I felt good and when the day was going well, I just said, no, every day I'm gonna just put in a few applications. I'm gonna make sure they're just as detailed. And even though I'm getting rejected from a bunch of them, I already know that I'm gonna land one eventually because I'm qualified. Yeah, because I've already optimized my resume and I've already gone the extra mile on my applications. And what do you know? Within a week, I've landed a job in tech sales after graduating from the course. Yeah, so it took me a week to get the interview that I ended up getting hired at, right? So there you go. And then I say, yeah, okay, I've gone over this as well, but with every rejection, you're one approach closer to your next date. And this is like factually true. Think about it, right? So let's say your date, I can't tell you how many approaches it's going to take. Yeah, we're all starting off at different places and we don't know which girls are out at what time and if they're taken or not or if they're in a rush or not, right? Maybe if you go out on weekends, your chances are higher because most people that are out are not in a rush typically, but still, you can still get battered on a weekend, right? But the point is, factually, this is true, right? Let's say your date on on this Tuesday, for example, is on approach number 11. Yeah, obviously we can't predict that, but let's just say that's how the cards end up unfolding. Well, the good news is, with every approach that you're doing, even though you're getting rejected from the first one, two, three, four, five, once you get to number 11, right? If for whatever reason that's how the date goes and your date happens to be on approach number 11, that means every approach that you've done has gotten you closer to your date. It's the same thing with this fucking swipe algorithm, isn't it? It's just one is way faster, one gets you way higher quality women, and one just shows courage and sets the tone of the relationship completely different than if you match on fucking Hinge. Yeah, if you match on Bumble and the girl has to message you first. Okay? And then the last thing I write here is this is the reality of creating a great dating life for yourself through courage specifically. All right. So rather than trying to avoid rejection and play it safe by using the most roundabout methods possible, we've already shat on the dating apps enough, right? Which, by the way, I was also doing 2.5 years ago. I was on every fucking app you can imagine, swiping away. It's pathetic. I've told this story on plenty of streams, but I used to set up a tripod, put my iPhone on it. I even bought a little self timer clicker for my iPod, like a shutter clicker. And I would like go to like various places where I thought, oh, this is a nice background. I would set up the tripod, set up the camera, because I was fucking lame. I had no friends back then, anyways, to take photos of me. And the few friends I did have, I was way too scared to go, hey, bro, can you take some photos of me for this dating app? I was like, that's lame. Yeah, I think it is lame, honestly. And so I would set up this tripod, and I would like pose in front of the camera at various different locations, trying to optimize a fucking dating profile. That's pathetic, right? So rather than trying to play it safe through an app, or rather than trying to let's say, hit on your coworkers who you know are forced to talk to you for 8 hours a day. Yeah, no shit. It's easy to hit on coworker Sally who works in the cubicle next to you. She's forced to fucking be there. So even if she doesn't like you, you get all this FaceTime with her, and you're probably thinking, oh, she's more familiar with me. She's more likely to go on dates with me. Or you're doing this pathetic route that I used to do as well, where you're still following girls that you used to go to high school with or college with, and so you're like creeping into their DMs, or you're liking their photos or liking their stories. That's a big one. I know some of you guys can relate, right? You're liking the stories, you're commenting on the posts, hoping that you can like spark something with a girl that you used to go to school with, because oh, there's familiarity there, right? Maybe she'll still think I'm sick because I played high school football. Rather than using these tepid, roundabout, weak methods, weak mediums for trying to get yourself some dates, which, by the way, rarely ever actually work. And when they do, it's usually the quality of girl you're actually not attracted to, or not as attracted to as you would like to be. Rather than doing that, how about you walk over to the hottest girl that you see when you're walking to work, when you're walking to the gym, when you're in the grocery store, and you see her and you go, holy shit, she's hot. Hopefully I can find her on Hinge. Nah, fuck that. Yeah, how about you just pick up your nuts and give yourself a shot? Yeah, it's not going to be easy, and there are times where you're going to get battered, psychologically battered. But that's the greatest separate. That is my greatest separator, is that I'm okay with that. Yeah, most guys aren't, and I'm okay with that. I understand that, and that is why you can look through my channel catalog of content, and that's why guys will comment, "Wow, this is cool. You seem like a natural. You seem so smooth." Nope. This was all developed. This was all learned behavior through action, through consistently going out, getting battered, picking myself back up, getting battered again, picking myself back up, and then what do you know? The next girl turns out to be my date for Friday night. Yeah, and so guys are going, I'm showing up to bonfires where my friends are inviting me out in San Francisco back when I lived out there, and I'm showing up with a hot date, and they're going, "How'd you two meet?" Oh, we met in the grocery store, aisle six. Yeah, she was shopping for bananas, and I went, interesting. You look good. And all of a sudden, we're on a date at the bonfire, and they're going, Ephraim, how are you doing this, man? I'm all on Hinge, figuring this out on Hinge. How are you getting dates in person? Yeah, but the part that they don't want to hear is it took me 7 approaches to find this girl. Yeah, to find the date was it was on the number 8 approach, and the first 7 were not interested, or they're in a rush, or they're already married, or whatever. And then I walked over to the 8th. Yeah, as I was walking over to Piccadilly Circus, and what do you know? She stopped. She liked me. She was available, not taken, and she also liked me and was interested. Right, so there we go. That ended up being the date. Right now, obviously, I'm not going on dates out here, but you get the point, right? Yeah. So, boys, the takeaway from this stream is that rejection is unavoidable with this skill set. So do not listen to any creators who tell you that there is any method to completely avoid rejection, right? Guys will even make videos about like how to approach a girl in a way where you can't get rejected, or this or that. And usually they're trying to say something about only wait for choosing signals, this and that, which is also a fucking lie. I've had girls like really eye me down as I'm walking past them, and then I go and approach them, and they still go, "Oh, I'm not interested," right? So don't listen to that shit. Just pick up your nuts and give yourself a shot. All right. And if you want to learn how to do that, if you want me to literally hold your hand, no homo, through this process so that you don't have to bang your head against the wall trying to figure this out, I will genuinely have my arm around you as we're walking down the street. And I'll point the girls out, and I'll teach you what to do, and I'll tell you what to say. And then when you inevitably get rejected, you'll turn around and you'll see a big bright smile on my face, and I'll go, "Good job, man. You went in for it. You gave yourself a shot. Here's what we can do better next time." I'll have you mic'd up, and I'll be listening in, and I'll go, "Here's how you said this. Let's tweak that. Say it like this next time." Yeah, and I'll go very granular with this coaching and this skill set, because this is exactly what I've done over the last 2 years to myself and to the rest of my clients that I've been coaching. Yeah, I get really granular with this because this is what I live and I breathe. Yeah, I left behind a 6 figure remote career in tech for this. Yeah, so I take it very seriously. I take my client success very, very seriously. And that is why I'm so honest and realistic about it as well. Yeah, that's why I don't tell guys, yeah, bro, just come out, pay me £100, and I'll get you sorted in one day. You'll never get rejected again. This is all bullshit. Yeah. The truth is you will be rejected. And that is simply something you're going to have to accept and become okay with. And once you accept it, you start to desensitize yourself to it. And when that happens, then you've reached a very powerful territory. When you are desensitized to the rejections, then you just show up differently everywhere. You walk into every room differently everywhere. Yeah, not just with approach, but just in general, right? Because shit doesn't phase you anymore. You've already put yourself through psychological torture, building the hardest social skill you'll ever have to build. So now when you walk into other rooms, you're like, nothing fucking phases me anymore. I'm the guy anyways. Yeah, and I'm not the guy because I never get rejected. I'm the guy because I'm one of the few in this on this earth that is okay with the fact that I'm getting rejected. Most guys just can't accept that, and I'm the guy who can. So I just go, yeah, I'm here. I'm the guy. It is what it is because I can walk over to that girl and I can't guarantee that she'll like me, but I'm the only fucker in this room that's bold enough to do it, bold enough to give myself a shot, while everybody else is gonna check her out, look at her ass, and then tuck their tail and look down when they pass her. I'm gonna go, huh, maybe she'll like me. Let me go give myself a shot, right? And then everybody laughs at me. Yeah, this doesn't actually happen, but in our heads, we think everybody's gonna laugh at me when it doesn't go well, and then we think everybody's gonna love us when it does go well. And it's like I'm the only one who gives myself a shot, and this is what I teach men how to do. Right? I'm not sitting on these live streams gloating. I mean, fuck me. I titled this. I got rejected all day today, so um, clearly I'm not a super arrogant person. Yeah, I can humble myself and admit that these days are possible for even me, the person who coaches the skill set. But yeah, the reality is you build the skill set, you're never the same again. Yeah, the confidence spillover genuinely creeps into every other area of your life. And I'm living, breathing proof of this because I can leave behind a career that people think, oh my God, he was a programmer, he worked in tech sales. How could he throw it all away and just travel the world? What about his 401k? Fuck that, man. Fuck that. We got one shot on this earth. Nobody, somebody made up these rules, or the founding fathers, right? Groups of people made up rules on how society should go. And I reject that fully. Yeah. There are plenty of things that I agree with, but siphoning off, or I guess auctioning off our dating rights to algorithms, I don't agree with. Tucking our tail and swiping on apps, I don't agree with. Trying to bang your coworkers and your flatmates, don't agree with. Yeah, trying to hit up girls that you went to high school and college with, don't agree with. Yeah, I agree with just picking up your nuts and saying, I know it's I know it's socially unorthodox. I know there's a chance she might not like me. I know there's going to be strangers around that'll see me get rejected, but I'm going to give myself a shot anyways. And what do you know? You walk over and she does like you sometimes. And now you've got a date set up. And now everybody's going, Ephraim, how do you have such an abundant, sick dating life, dude? You must be the man. You must never get rejected. You must be looks max. You must have figured it out. But the reality is, I get rejected more than most guys ever will. And it's because I give myself more chances than most guys ever will. Yeah. And so, rightly so, I go on more dates than most guys ever will, if that makes sense. So, yeah, this is exactly what I teach my clients how to do, how to desensitize that fear of rejection, desensitize themselves from rejection, how to continue giving themselves a chance, how to continue walking over, yeah, and how to sift through the mud in order to find the fucking diamond, to find either the girl that they're going to go on a date with. For some guys, right, I have a lot of clients that reach out to me that are in their late 30s, 40s. I got a guy who booked a call who's almost 50, right? So for these guys who are a little deeper into their career and into their life, they're probably not looking to bang a bunch of girls. They might be, and sure, take the skill set and do that. But some of the guys that are booking calls with me now, they're just looking for a couple of dates so that they can find the girl that they want to spend the rest of their lives with. And this, in my opinion, this is the way to do it. Yeah, because the good news is this isn't a skill set that is contained to the streets. You don't have to be doing this in the city center, although that's just the way that I like to. Back when I was in San Francisco, a lot of this was me walking to the gym. This was me at a park, right, with my friends. I'm throwing the football around, and you just get the balls to do things that otherwise you wouldn't have had the balls to do, right? So there's been times where I've been at the park with my friends throwing the football, and I go, dude, just throw the football like extra far because there's a cute girl over there. I'm gonna like pretend to catch it in a way and then look back and go like, oh look, I saved you. And it's like all these things that we think about in our head, but we'll never actually pull the trigger and do. You get the balls to do it. Yeah. Yeah. You see her in the grocery aisle, right? I've set up dates with girls that when I was Instacarting, when I was shopping for other people's groceries, and I see a girl in the produce section and I go, she's hot, and I just walk the fuck over. Boom, what do you know? She's on a date with me that Friday. You see what I'm saying? You just get the balls to do things that are outside of who you think you are right now. And the reality is, we all have it inside of us already. We all have this courage inside of us, but usually for most guys, it's just untapped. Yeah, this goes back to my live stream a few days ago when I said you're already dateable. You already have the intangibles. You just don't have you just have not distilled down your courage yet. You've just not uncovered it yet. And, for those of you who genuinely don't have it yet, the good news is it's buildable. Yeah, courage is buildable through action. Yeah, it's something that I did 2.5 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. And now I can perform for you on camera. Right now, you can see me. I'm mic'd up in a new country, in a new culture. I got a big black camera pointed at me, just the most unreasonably large camera pointed directly at me in the streets of London, and I'm going back to back to back approaching, giving you uncut infills, giving you solo approaches, just showing you what it looks like when you actually have this rock star confidence, and more importantly, this rock star courage about you. So yeah, if you would like me to teach you this skill set, click the first link in the description below to schedule a free application call. We'll see if you're a good fit, because if you're a good fit, life will never be the same. That is a promise. And if you're not a good fit, no worries. I'll be honest about it, right? I don't take money from guys that I don't think can actually build this skill set. So I won't even pitch you my offer. I'll just give you as much advice as possible, and I'll answer all your questions, and I'll set you off in the right direction to become a good fit for this coaching. All right, boys. So I hope you enjoyed. I hope this has been valuable. I actually, some laundry list items. I have a day off tomorrow, which was not purpose, or it was not on purpose. My cameraman, Camera Dan, he already had a booking before I booked him for this month for tomorrow, so he'll be filming some sort of corporate event. So I'm not gonna be in the field tomorrow. So I get one day off. I am kind of jazzed about it, honestly, because I was pretty burnt out doing this 21 days in a row. I think I'm on day 22 now, 22 days in a row. So I get one day off tomorrow, and then we're gonna hit it hard again for the last few days. My last day will be on Monday of filming at least, and then it'll just be head down, grinding hard on the editing. Still got the Isaac series to pump out. If you boys are excited about that, because we stopped at day 3, and we still have 7 more parts to go. Because I'm splitting each day into 2 parts, so we still got 7 more videos for the Isaac series to roll out. Then we have the Isaac London series. I got 3 separate days with 3 hours of footage with Isaac out here in London. The guy's absolutely smashing it, knocking it out of the park. So that's gonna be great. So yeah, I got a huge backlog of content, a lot of stuff to sift through and edit. So yeah, I'm excited about it. So yeah, I hope you boys enjoyed. Yeah, click that first link if you'd like coaching from me, or just to apply for it at least. I hope you boys